Welcome to Don't Mind Me, I'm Different, the podcast where I kick down the barriers and myths surrounding ADHD in the workplace. Trust me, it's out there. Whether it's navigating the office chaos, or trying to break this stigma, or just learning what is this thing called ADHD, I'm here step by step to advocate, educate, and empower you in any way that I can. Get ready to own your difference and shine on your job. Please subscribe below for the latest in podcasts. Yeah, it's here, the very first episode, and I'm Ron Sowers, and I am so excited. I can barely describe it. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about fear, specifically my fear with getting diagnosed and my fear with telling other people, specifically at my job, like my boss. I'm going to also be talking about the underlying connection between fear and ADHD and how that plays out, and strategies and tips on how to overcome that, with a special bonus at the end, so stay tuned. And here we go, down another rabbit hole. Well, hey there. I just want to give you guys a quick disclaimer, and that's I am not a professional of any capacity, so take what I have to give with a grain of salt, and definitely run it by somebody in your network, because I'm just a guy with ADHD talking about my experience with it, and that could vary from yours. And whatever I suggest on the show, it is totally up to you on how you move forward with it. Yeah, let's get into the nitty gritty. And I'm going to talk about getting the courage to get my first diagnosis. And that happened like a couple years ago. A little over a couple years ago. And I remember at that time, there was this fear that there was something wrong with me. And I didn't want to admit to that. I had all these people telling me that I needed to slow down, my entire life. And what really drove me to take a deeper look at that was I was going to lose my job, because I work in a place, and I currently still work in a place where there's some dangerous chemicals, and I'm running around with ADHD, and I can imagine, and I was knocking over stuff, I was hurting myself, and all in the name to go quicker. And I had no idea what was going on. So I had a few safety write-ups. And, I was deeply resentful, because it wasn't my fault. They needed to understand that I was trying. So when I went to the doctor and told them about this, it was almost like I had to tell them, I think I have ADHD or ADD, because I didn't know what it was called at the time. And she said, yeah, well, here's a list of numbers that you can call. So I was able to finally get a hold of somebody and set up an appointment to see a psychotherapist. And there was a lot of relief in that. there was still this feeling of being broken, that there was something wrong with me, that I would never be normal. And it took me a while to really accept that. And now I've really fully embraced that. But like, what had happened along that journey was I had forgotten that I was actually diagnosed as a child. And my mom had to remind me of this. And I remember being there, but I didn't remember that my dad had said, when the doctor wanted to prescribe me Ritalin, he shut it down. And I can imagine, looking back now, that there was a lot of fear. The same type of fear that I had, that, my son isn't broken. We're going to sweep this under the rug. This ADHD thing is so murky right now. And it still, to a degree, is pretty murky, because the research that I was doing when I first got that re-diagnosed was confusing at best. I didn't know they were whether to call it ADD or ADHD or both. And over time, I'm still confused, but I have a deeper understanding of how it displays in my life, because I had thought that, once I do some of the suggested things, then I'm good. I can kind of fix this ADHD thing that's going on, and I'll be fine. And now I'm seeing that I do need more guidance and more help in that area. So I went back to my psychotherapist about 7-8 months ago, and now I'm seeing an ADHD coach, and these things are really helping me. But I still had that fear about talking about it with my coworkers and letting my bosses know, and because most of the people that I was talking to about it told me that that's none of their business, that they wouldn't understand, that you might become a liability and you might end up losing your job. I bought into that. And it wasn't until recently that I've started talking about it, because I wanted to let people know that I'm developing strategies to help people with ADHD at the workplace. And I'm doing this episode, so I needed to talk to people about it. And honestly, I was surprised at how many people at just my workplace have ADHD, and how just these little interactions have like helped not only me but them, just to feel like we're not alone. And there has been a therapeutic value in that I wouldn't take away. I'm no longer ashamed of being ADHD. I honestly embrace that, and I see the benefits. I see the positives in it. Like, we're resilient people. Just to live with this takes a lot of courage. To walk through that fear of knowing that you're not good enough, or things are going to be hard, and things haven't gotten necessarily easier for me. I've just learned ways to manage it so that it doesn't become as overwhelming. And when it does become overwhelming, I understand that this is a part of it. So it's really just that understanding that's so key. It's so key to living life and knowing, like, this isn't it. This isn't like the death sentence or that I thought it would be. It's actually freeing because I can talk about my fear. And one of my fears now is if I can keep up with these episodes, because I work full time, and that can become overwhelming, and there's a lot of doubt. And I know I'm not alone in that because of the research that I've been able to do. There is so much out there that I'm just beginning to tap into, and I want to get it out. And this is a great platform to be able to do that. Of course I want to get this right. And of course I'm making mistakes. But that's part of the journey. That's part of, like, the most successful people that I've heard is like, you got to be a disaster to be a master. You got to put yourself out there. I've got to be able to be something that I never thought I could be. And honestly, that I'm so glad that I found this out about myself. It's helped me to understand who I am and what I need to do. And yeah, it's not going to be easy. And I know I'm going off on a tangent here, so got to reel it in. And we're going to go on to the next topic, which is the underlying connection between fear and ADHD and how it plays out. So we're getting into a little neuroscience here. Yeah, I know that was uncalled for. So let me start off by saying that fear is a good thing. Having that is it's a protection mechanism. It is there to keep us safe. Such as having the fear that if I walk into traffic, I'm going to be hit by a car. So I'm going to look before I cross the street. Or having that fear that I might get burnt if I touch something hot. Or having that fear that I might forget something. So I'm going to write a list. That keeps us safe. That's good. Having boundaries is a good thing. Such as when Detective Gordon was asking Bruce Wayne why he was standing on the edge of his mansion. And he tells Gordon, this young Bruce Wayne tells Gordon that I'm learning to conquer my fear. And Gordon assures him that fear doesn't need to be conquered. Fear tells you where the edge is. Fear is a good thing. It's that fear that's paralyzing, that fear that's debilitating, that fear that is toxic and keeps us from living our lives to the full potential. It's that fear that we're going to talk about and how to walk through that. Yeah, full disclosure, I do not like planning. I just want to do. But I was able to fight that urge for you guys. So I'm going to lay down a few terms here, and hopefully you can pick up what I'm putting down. The first one is heightened emotional sensitivity. And this one is the idea that we feel, as people with ADHD, emotions that much more intensely, such as anxiety, fear, and stress, which only adds to that stress. So this is a whole nother subject for another podcast, but basically I was always called sensitive, growing up, and even recently, and I always thought it was a bad thing, and tried to get better with it. It never really worked out. Now I embrace the fact that I'm sensitive as a strength. I've just got to be careful about where I tune into that sensitivity and how much I take in. The next one we're going to talk about is emotional dysregulation. And this is another one that I'm going to talk about more in depth on another podcast. But briefly, it's basically the idea that the signals from our brains are not working properly. So things can, like emotions, can come as like somebody turn up the volume way too loud. And it can be almost even painful, the way the height and the state of, like, particularly the fear, and it lasts for longer periods of time. This is something that I'm beginning to understand about myself, is that these emotions that I have just can happen at any moment. And they're so intense. Like if somebody says something that I don't like, or in a way that I don't like, my mood is going to suddenly shift, and I'm going to either shut down, or I just want to scream sometimes. And that can lead to a lot of different things, such as fear of failure. So when I fear that I'm going to fail at something, I often avoid that task or procrastinate. And there's also the fear of missing out. So when I feel like I'm going to miss out on an opportunity, like specifically for this podcast, I'm reading all these books at once. I'm doing everything I can. This, and that needs to get done right now. And I need to know everything there is to know about ADHD. And that's creating a lot of anxiety. And I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself that doesn't need to be there. And honestly, it doesn't work that way. So the next thing is the fear of losing control. And I might lose control because I forgot something, or I can't manage my impulsivity. There was a lot of fear from which led me to step down from a position at my job that required me to use a forklift. And I've hit so many things. Frankly, I'm surprised I didn't get fired in that time. And I've had to realize I've got to take a look at that fear. Am I taking these risks because of my fear of losing out on an opportunity at my job? And I'm leaving money on the table, but I'm putting all this extra stress in my life because I can't look at the fact that, even if it's just a little bit that I get distracted, that's way too much. So not only could I hurt myself, but I could hurt other people. And that's something that I need to walk away from. And that's why boundaries are so important. And that leads to our next term, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, otherwise known as RSD. And dysphoria is a Greek word meaning strong, if not overwhelming. And it's basically the anticipation of rejection, which can lead to anger, rage, extreme sadness, or anxiety, and often task paralysis. And with that, it's very easy to feel embarrassed or self-conscious and have signs of low self-esteem and trouble believing in ourselves. And that can show up as us just blurting out and even tears. And that can come from even non-positive reactions, such as something that's neutral or vague, can seem like rejection. And a lot of that leads to our final term, which is hyperfocus. And it can be used as a good thing. It's just often seen, when we use it as a way of escape. When I'm hyper focused on, say, video games, just because I want to escape the reality of the world, or something else that can be destructive. When I'm escaping something, that's not healthy. And, I'm just running from a type of fear. So with all of these terms and how it relates to ADHD, we're going to talk about some tips and strategies on how to manage that. But before we get to that, some good news in ADHD. Psychiatrist Dr. Peter S. Jensen, the president and CEO of the Reach Institute, says that the field of psychiatry is increasingly recognizing adult ADHD as a major issue, which is great. And so they're asking clinicians to screen for ADHD along with anxiety, depression, and substance abuse, because ADHD is now being seen as the underpinnings of these other outlying issues. So this is great because most countries already have these guidelines. And what they're going to do is get together with 7 other organizations and disseminate the latest evidence-based interventions from the American Psychiatric, the Academy of Neurology, NOMI, the Associates of Nurse Practitioners, American Psychologies, CHAD, and REACH are all coming together for this great cause. In some other quirky holiday news, turkey eggs. Can we eat them? Why don't we? And to answer that question, Aisha Deacon from Quora.com on a posting said that they are like the ribeye steak of eggs. And the reason why we don't eat them is because turkey eggs they don't lay eggs every day. And they eat a lot more. So if they were to be available, it would be like $20 to $30 for a dozen. But if you do know somebody with a turkey farm, definitely try them out because I've heard that they're really delicious. I'm definitely interested. So here we go. Tips and strategies for overcoming fear. So the first one that I'm going to give you is one that has worked very well in my life is build a good support system. You know, you need to have a good system. My system includes, people in my life that I trust, that know that I have ADHD and can tell me, for instance, when I'm getting excited or when I'm going down a rabbit hole. And I also have a therapist and an ADHD coach. So those things work for me. You've got to figure out what would be good in your network. The next thing is find out what is causing the fear. So is it, breaking down larger tasks into smaller tasks, trying to find the root cause of that fear? Just where is that fear coming from? And a lot of times in the beginning, I had to talk to somebody about this to figure out what was going on. And a lot of times just sitting and questioning that fear, it really helps to break that up. Just the power that it might have over you. There's also cognitive behavioral techniques from therapy. So that would be identifying the automatic negative thoughts that you have and question their validity and do your best to replace them with more positive thoughts. Another one is to develop a healthy routine and structure. One that really works for me is eliminating watching TV throughout the week so that I can get up earlier. And then I usually, make my bed and then I go for a short 10-minute walk. I try to practice some mindfulness there. And that really helps to start my day because I get some sunlight in my eyes and I get to listen to the birds because they're always like out. Don't underestimate the power of this. Because when I first started taking walks, and the idea was floated by me, I did not see how that would work. Until I tried it. And right now, I can't imagine a day that I don't do this. It really just adds so much value to the day and how it folds out. The next one is breathing, or again, short walks. Breathing, one you can do is called box breathing, and it's breathing in for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, then breathing out for 4 seconds, and hold it for 4 seconds. And you do that for 4 times. There's another one that is really key in my life, and that's exercise. What I try to do, especially with cardio, is at least get in, 10 or 15 minutes on a stationary bike. So I watch these GCN YouTube videos while I'm doing these HIIT high intensity interval training workouts for about 3 to 4 times a week, and that really helps to build confidence, and it's healthy. And the last one, which I am a huge fan of the results that it's given in my life, and that's mindfulness and self-compassion. These are, in my personal opinion, this is one of the most effective tools that I have for managing my ADHD, and especially my fear, because it helps to create space. It gives me, helps me to develop more self-compassion, because when we do these things for ourselves, just by listening to this podcast and trying to learn more about and understand more about ourselves, that is a huge step, and that deserves a level of self-compassion, because practicing mindfulness or meditation is not easy for somebody that has ADHD. For us, because we are constantly getting distracted, and because we get distracted, we feel like we're not good at it. But the fact that you're actually noticing that you're being distracted is actually a good sign. And even the most advanced mindfulness practitioners get distracted. It's just a part of it. So here it is, the moment that you've been waiting for. When you're going to get your free stuff. Yeah, as promised, this special gift is my 5 hacks for overcoming fear and anxiety. And you can get that when you go to www.advocate.xyz/fear. And that advocate is spelled with 2 D's. So it's ADDVOCATE.xyz/fear. And in that, you'll get a PDF form, and it also comes with a little checklist that can be printed out so you can write notes on your progress. And always feel free to send me any updates, suggestions, or how that's working for you. I'd love to hear the feedback, maybe any questions or things that you're struggling with that you need answers for. Anything that I can do to help, just email that to me at ronsowers@DADHDWSS.com, and that's spelled RONSOUERS at DADHDWSS.com. Feel free to add a 60-second audio clip. That would really help me. Thank you. I thank you for listening, and we have a wonderful interview coming up on the next episode with a fellow podcaster named Jake Rusi, who specializes in helping educators organize. And I'm looking forward to finding out what that's all about. Again, thank you for listening, and please subscribe.